Buenos días, buenas tardes, y buenas noches, bonjour, bonsoir, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you may be. Jay Slater case. And we continue with the weekend roastathon or slugathon roasting. As I really do want to just go through the 7 or 8 points that El Slugtardo mentioned recently, which I found incredibly contradictory, no big surprise. But here we are in year three, and we are still getting statements that, to the sane of this world, really make no sense whatsoever. And I was thinking about the beginning of this case. You probably remember, if you've been around since day one, that I didn't make any videos at all. I never have done up until then. Um, I was fascinated immediately by the disappearance of Jay Slater, and got very, very bad vibes about it immediately when I think the moment it was explained that Jay Slater hadn't met his end in that Playa de las Americas area, but gone up to the very remote Masca Airbnb, that was the moment my heart sank. And of course, there were no mystery men on the scene then. It was just strangers he had met that night and drove up to this mountain retreat. I think that was the moment when, in my heart, I felt this is anything but an accident. Just from the experience of people at that time of day, night, um, abandoned by friends or abandoning all friends, going solo with a stranger to a remote place, it all feels immediately very off. And early doors, even though I wasn't commenting, saying nothing online or anything like that, early doors, I was also fascinated by this other phenomenon of certain people saying that there's nothing to see here. And I've always been interested in those that assume that what is said by those that are around the victim or spent the last hours of the victim's life with the victim, how they just take their word as gospel. It's like, well, they're the friends, they're the family, they're the people. Yeah, but we don't do that. We don't do that. We take their word, not, we don't disbelieve their word and we don't believe their word. We take it as a statement and take it from there. But one of the fascinating points about the Jay Slater case was it seemed like it was just a small minority of people that from day one were saying this doesn't feel right. It seemed like the press, it seemed like law enforcement, it seemed like the family, um, we're all very much on board with either this is an accident or someone's taken him. But if someone's taken him, we don't want to ask the friends about who that could be or what's going on in the background. So it got stranger and stranger from day one. Let me just say this before I get into the 2 points that I want to attack El Slugtardo for. Perhaps the strangest phenomenon of this case is the insistence by the searchers for Jay Slater, and I'm not talking about the Guardia Civil and the Bomberos and the dogs and the rest of it. I'm talking about that bogus UK team that claimed to have actually been searching for him. It was the strangest thing that they, as they tried to explain how they were just good Samaritan searchers, also took on the role of being the propaganda mouthpieces for the theory that Jay could only have died by accident. This was the weirdest thing. I know many people have said it, but it's worth saying one more time. It's a big red flag when the person that says, my only duty here is to help the family and find this boy or find his body, then to go on this massive crusade, which is now into year three, and say it only could be an accident. And anyone that disbelieves that line that it had to be an accident, has to be an accident, needs to be shut up by an act of parliament. And then the mother of the victim joins that crusade. It is whatever happens in this case, whether we find out the truth, whether the truth is, covered for years to come, whatever happens, it will remain the most bizarre case. And I don't think any aspect of this case will ever cease to interest our community. We will always be focused on, is there something out there that has yet to be discovered that will explain the background and what happened to Jay? That is our hope. I mean, yes, the answer is yes, there is stuff out there that will explain what happened to Jay. It's whether someone can stumble upon it, or someone confesses it, or almost godlike, some kind of super detective comes down from nowhere and says, yeah, this is how it needs to be unraveled. But I digress. Let us go to, there are actually 7 points on the Lord Lugworm channel, the most recent post, and we're dealing with numbers 3 and 4 today. Point number 3, Lord Lugworm says, how absurdly, stupidly optimistic and deluded he is, I think that he is moi, to think anybody that should be gives, anybody give a toss about him or any of his followers. That's a shame, El Slugtardo. You are so close to writing your first grammatically correct sentence that you've posted, I think, but you're 1 letter out. So, lesson of the day, El Slugtardo, is that the word anybody is singular, 3rd person singular, so the verb give becomes gives. Yes, he is to think anybody gives a toss about him or any of his followers. I can answer this directly. I don't think it is absurdly, stupidly optimistic to think that people do give a toss about what I say, because the evidence out there, El Slugtardo, is that people like you clearly do. Now, we're entering year 3 of this case, and from what we've heard from you, I am nothing but some old git in a closet spouting shite all day long. And yet here we are into year 3, and during your holiday, you found that you had to write, I don't know why, but you had to write, what was it, 280 odd lines in response to what I was saying. I think the evidence is in that you in particular, El Slugtardo, are most definitely someone giving a toss, or perhaps multiple tosses, tossing ad nauseum and ad infinitum about things that I say. If you weren't one of those giving a toss about things that I was saying, then I think we would find your channel would be silent. You would have nothing to say. It seems I'm the only one you comment on. As for the other people, the small band of nutcases that support you and follow you, they seem to have nothing to say on any other person in this case. It is truly bizarre. Again, the evidence shows that when you have a channel like, I don't know, Thomas Wilson, who the whole channel seems to be devoted to analyzing my life, what I've done, what I say, what I believe, what kind of person I am, the whole channel. Now, if Thomas was someone that didn't give a toss about me, why have the whole channel that revolves around me? It makes no sense. You have Gobshite from Glasgow, Janie180. I wouldn't say her whole channel revolves around me. I mean, some of it, yeah, okay, there's a picture of her dog. The funny little story about the Dachshunds. The ad nauseum and ad infinitum posts about the latest kid from Gaza that hasn't lived to see another day. Yeah, okay, so there's a certain variation there. I suppose 20% of the time is Gobshite having a good laugh at Donald Trump. But of that remaining time, when Gobshite is focused on things that are said that particularly get her knickers in a twist, it does seem to feature myself again a lot. Here we are into year 3. It would seem, if we're going by the Tossometer, the Tossometer that reads just how much of a toss people give, it would seem that in the case of Gobshite, yours truly indeed registers very, very high on the Glasgow Tossometer. Kaz Alice frequently when I call her out, and I call her out for several things, but recently I've called her out for being disingenuous. She is very proud indeed to say that she is a friend of CP, a friend of Ivor Lovelace, a friend of all of those involved in the search, a friend indeed of Debbie Duncan. And yet when you ask Kaz a simple question like, well, if you're a friend, what answer did you get when you asked your dear friend, for example, Chris Pennington, how it could be possible that Juan Lopez Beach is both accessible to boats so that he and his crew off the Jolly Roger could go up the ravine and retrieve Jay's body, and yet that same beach is inaccessible to boats. You can only get 500 meters offshore, and you've got the hammerhead sharks that are swimming in between. How can these two statements, one of which must be a lie, how can that be explained? And the reason I poke Kaz Alice to explain this is because she is the one that knows. She is the one that's had this conversation with Chris. And if she hasn't, why hasn't she? Is she so dim and lacking in curiosity that she prefers to spend all her time criticizing me rather than finding out the truth behind the Jay Slater case? This is a part of the case that is a phenomenon that is absolutely bewildering, but it is interesting. How is it that these people that are 100% convinced that the searchers are good people won't ever ask the searchers the key questions that will find out why they are liars? I digress. I would say, given the amount of time, energy, thought, outpouring of hysteria, nastiness, vindictiveness, and lies directed towards me by a whole host of people, such as Ivor Lovelace, Kaz Alice, Janie 180, well, you know the whole list. It seems that Ivor has got that point terribly wrong when he says how absurdly, stupidly optimistic and deluded he is to think for the last 2 years that he has to think anybody gives a toss about him or even his followers. It is clear, even to the accident group, that they really do give many, many, many a toss about me. So denying the evidence, not that the evidence counts for the accident group, but denying the evidence is a tough one here. If we were to reproduce every comment that was made about me, showing that they obviously do give a toss, otherwise why would you comment? We would be here all evening repeating everything that has been said. So number 3, no, El Slugtardo. I partially agreed with you on point 2, I think it was. But yeah, going back to point 2, some of you were kind of amused, as I was, and interested as I was, about the phrase "the old lady crew." This old lady crew that apparently follow me. I did come across a comment, and I've forgotten who it was. Might be Donna. If it wasn't you, Donna, apologies. That said, rather than the old lady crew, can't we be called the SAGA Crusaders? And I loved that title. Yes. I think, well, obviously foul play group, that sticks, but in particular, that not so sprightly, shall we say, have seen their better days, their younger days, the older crew in the community, the SAGA Crusaders. I'm going with that. Quite what the problem is with any of the SAGA Crusaders, I don't know. I have a feeling that the heart of the problem for the accident group is the SAGA Crusaders, number one, are speaking as mothers, are speaking as grandmothers, are speaking as older, experienced, wiser people that have experienced certain disorder, chaos, trauma in their life. And so they do have, as opposed to some teenager that's never experienced anything like this, they do have a wealth of experience to draw on, and they can say things that relate to this case that others can't. I think that is the golden nugget for those that are of a certain age. They do have first-hand experience, not always, but often, of going through the emotions that Debbie Duncan has experienced, and they see it in a different light. And that is a problem. That is a big problem for the accident group. When we have the likes of Shaz, for example, who has had her own grieving period, saying that she still does not feel aligned to Debbie Duncan because Debbie Duncan still isn't coming through with the truth and the honesty and the transparency that we need to be convinced that this is a genuine accident. That is a problem for the accident group because they can say, till the end of their days that we are insensitive, that we haven't been through this, that we can't relate to the Greek, but we can. The Saga Crusaders are the group that can say we've been through this and it doesn't feel right. I digress. Let us go to the point where he mentions the main man. This is, I think, what I really wanted to attack today. Point number 4, El Slotaro says, how absurdly, stupidly optimistic and deluded he is to think for the last 2 years that he was some main man. Imbecilic dreamer. Well, this is easy to correct. I have never thought, I do not think, and I will never think, that I am in any way any kind of main man. That title does simply not apply to me. My evidence for that would be, logically, if I thought I were some main man, maybe I'd have a t-shirt on that says main man. Maybe I'd actually bother to get a real microphone or a real laptop or a real studio. Maybe I would teach myself to make real videos with some bells, whistles, and God knows what else. If I really thought I was the main man, I think main men tend to take themselves pretty seriously and depict themselves as some kind of main man. I would have thought it were abundantly obvious from the setting, the decor, the production, or the lack of it, that is the very last claim I would ever make about myself. But just for the record, if someone were to say who was or who has been the main man in the J. Slater case, representing the foul play group version, I would say for his endurance on the subject, and his reach, his audience reach, I would say it's probably Wax, even though Wax, for the last month or so, or a couple of months, hasn't been commenting on the Jay Slater case. People have asked me why. I don't know for sure. I would imagine Wax is very busy looking into other cases, and probably Wax feels, that when something new pops up in the Jay Slater case, we'll be back on it. Haley Comet's back on the scene, but she's not a man, so she can't be a main man. Yeah, maybe Wax has been the main man. I would say that Marvin has been from day one. I wasn't on here from day one. I can't see how someone who wasn't on the case from day one can be the main man, actually. It's a bit like saying a sub that comes on in a football game is man of the match. I don't know. I tend to look at who's been there from minute one, who is still there, who is still producing, who's still commenting, who still has an audience, who still comes up with some thoughts that are worth, pondering. I would say Marvin too could be considered a main man from day one. He's there. Wax and Marvin. Those that have disappeared. Joseph Morris, I thought was really good. Didn't agree with every take that he had. For me, he was a little bit too, clickbaity headline news, and then maybe there wasn't much to it. A little bit sensationalist. But I did like, and I did like thinking about everything that Joseph Morris said. And then, do you remember that one, Top Level, I think it was called? Never saw the face, but it was a Southern English accent, I think. Top Level, I might have got that wrong. I thought he was very good too. And he had a turn of phrase. I think, he was somewhat humorous in how he would judge things as well. Um, World News and Entertainment was very good. I mean, not a main man, maybe. But anyway, no. So this one is easy to debunk. I would never consider myself a main man whatsoever. Apart from that, I think someone who is a main man would be someone that is actually kind of put out there in some kind of definitive form. Either some kind of petition, some kind of, I don't know, if there were some kind of way to counter the Jay's Law thing, if I had organized a real group to achieve something, I know it sounds grand in Parliament or something like that, that might also be worth taking the title of main man. But in my book, someone that just pontificates, they have a thought come into their head, they kind of phrase it in their head, this is how I want to express it, and then they click on the camera and just start talking. I don't think that is a main man, not by my definition. What's interesting is that El Slugtardo thinks that I think I could be a main man in my own imaginary world. That is kind of interesting. But then again, I would say if he thinks that I think I'm a main man, God help him if a main man ever appears, let's say tomorrow, and says, I'm now the main man on this case. Duncan, you can be my number two or my three or my number four, but I'm taking over. One thing's for sure, I'm not the main man, which I'm not, and a main man magically appears, El Slugtardo, you and your followers in big, big trouble, because I'm a total amateur. I'm just wearing kid gloves here. But I do enjoy myself enormously. So let us just go back to this phrase and see if we can pick up anything else about it. How absurdly, stupidly optimistic and deluded he is to think for the last 2 years he was some main man, imbecilic dreamer. No, I started off just looking, listening, commenting on a few channels. And I think I've said this before. The moment I decided to make a video, well, I wasn't sure how to make a video, obviously. When I heard Chris Pennington say it must have been the path of least, it was those words, path of least resistance that Jay took. I was like, no, 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 no. We're not letting that slide. I am now going to make a video. I don't know how to do it. Never done one before. Haven't got a clue. Does my laptop have a camera? There's the camera. Okay, there's a little video camera icon. If I click on that, does it start filming me? When I click stop, how do I post it? Do I click on that word post? Yeah, so it was all very fumbling for me. Had no idea what to do. But that was the moment I decided, yeah, this has to go be challenged rigorously, and I'm going to do it. I don't care if I have 5 viewers or 0 viewers or 500. I just need to put my own words, voice, and face out there to say this isn't right. That isn't the path of least resistance. And the person that stands there saying this is the path of least resistance because it's a footpath that goes downhill when there's a road back there with buses, taxis, and cars is an absolute buffoon. And 3 years on, 2 years on, into the third year of this, I was right to call out that buffoon. Chris Pennington has since realised he's a buffoon. He's decided to go back hiding under a rock. It was interesting that his father revealed his father's also a buffoon. Yes, all of you trolls out there hiding behind your VPN. Yeah, we're going to find you. We're going to find you. Yeah. What happened to him? I think he went hiding behind a rock too. Yeah, so the journey's been interesting. But the first videos were experimental. I didn't know which words were accepted on YouTube. So the first video I made, I think, included the word Hitler. Because I was told you can't say that man's name. If his name appears in a video title, you get it banned. So those of you that know this story, I think my first video as an experiment was in Italian, saying it is true that the man Hitler wasn't totally evil because we know from biographies that he absolutely adored his dog. He looked after his dog very well. It was an absurd notion. It was just a point of fact to say whenever you're in the world of saying this is evil, this is good. Well, it's on a sliding scale. You know, you might want to say this guy's 99.9999% evil, but if there's a slice of good about the guy, you can't make these definitive statements. That was my experiment. And then, yeah, then this started. But this has never been a main channel. It's never been a main man, never been a main anything. But it does seem to cause an awful lot of knickers getting twisted on the other side. And for that reason alone, I will proceed. There will be more roasting in the roastathon of El Slugtardo tomorrow. It is Sunday. It will be the Sunday roast. Just a reminder that Jazz Views Live, we are planning to do something for Monday night. World Cup final Sunday night. Yeah, I know there's a third place playoff today, England and France. I don't care about it. Many people don't care about it. I will do another video on semi-final gate though, because I've still got more thoughts on this. And it is interesting, some of you saying where I've gone astray on the criticism or lack of it of Argentina. Yeah, I've got some more to say, so there will be a part 3 to semi-final gate coming later today. Sunday World Cup final. Espagna and Argentina are the finalists. Place your bets. Hasta luego, adios, hasta la vista. See you next time.